What pretty miss? What? What? What is up, guys? It is Kiki, and it is another 100 Days of Making Comics Challenge video. This challenge is created by Kevin Cross here on the YouTubes, and you can see a link to his channel, his first foray into the challenge, and the Facebook group in the description below. Essentially, this challenge is for 100 days straight, no missed days. You work a minimum of 30 minutes per day on your personal comic projects. Then you make a social media post of some kind, talking or showing what you did, keeping you honest. I make videos. So, day 28, chugging along, getting there. As you can see, I am drawing a cat. I'm continuing on with the line art sketches for my characters. Today is going to be all 3 of the cats, although there's going to be 4 sketches I did. As you can see, the sketch I'm doing right now, this is Moss. The next one is Harvey, which is actually the cat at the very beginning of the video. Thought it was apropos. She was being really cute today, so I recorded a video. Anyway, the last cat is going to be a cat I used to have, but I no longer have her. She's not dead. She just, I had to rehome her. But I have stories, so she's going to be in the comic at least for a little while. There's 2 sketches of her because she is a little she's a little nubbin tail, and I wanted to show that. She's not natural nubbin. I had to have it, her tail actually had to be amputated as a last ditch effort because she kept attacking it and damaging it like super bad to the point where bone was showing. And that one lasted for like 6 or 7 months. We kept trying different things to get her to stop doing it and finding out what was causing it, and finally just had to chop the little sucker off. And I did not, a doctor did. All of this was supervised by a licensed veterinarian. Yeah, so she had no problems after that. She was really good. And then she was about 7, I rehomed her with a lovely family little girl who wanted a real chill cat because she freaked out with rambunctious animals, and Chihiro just like slept and ate and stared at herself in the mirror, so she fit the bill. And that little girl does love that cat. I'm still in contact with them. They're doing great. Yeah, she's now 10 years old and doing wonderfully. Still a big old cat. Like the sketches of the cat's kind of deceptive because Chihiro could eat the other 2. She's a big kitty, but she's mostly just a big, fat, roly-poly, lazy cat. Anyway, I kind of want to talk about a couple different things. One of them more comic-related. One of them not so much, but I kind of wanted to speak on it. So anyway, I'll get into that. First thing first. I kind of touched on this a little bit yesterday when I was talking about setting goals. I am horrible about taking on too much. And, yeah, recently, what kind of made me talk about it is recently I ran across a couple different art YouTubers that had made videos about burnout, and I thought I'd kind of talk about it because I'm intimately familiar with that condition. Yeah, so as I was saying, I tend to take too much on, and when I first started in comics, as I said previously in a couple different videos, I've been doing comics for about 14 to 15 years. And when I first started getting into comics, I think I was just so excited about the medium, about making comics, about people liking the comics that I put out, that I did too much. I have so many stories. That's, even though I'm doing like a strip comic, that's not my passion. Even though this comic has been in one iteration or another throughout the entire time that I've made comics, has been somewhere. It's not that precious to me. It's not something that I'm super passionate about. It's mostly just a way of telling stories that I tell in person anyway, and it's also something simple I can do pretty quickly. I mean, even though this build-up process, I'm kind of going a bit slow about it, once I get to the actual making of the comic, I can do it really fast. And it's not something that if I don't continue on with it, or if it doesn't go well or whatever, that I'm going to be heartbroken. Because it's not my passion. My passion is graphic novels. And I have an obscene amount of stories. Like, I have a folder on my cloud storage that's just story ideas, and it's huge. And it's more stories than I'll ever be able to create, and I still have new stories that pop up in my head every once in a while. Like, my cup runneth over with stories. And when I was younger, I was so excited about it that I would start one, and then I'd go a little bit, and then I'd start another one to do at the same time. And at one point, a little over 10 years ago, I was doing like 4 comics all at the same time, updating multiple times a week, and I almost died. It was a bad idea. And at one point, and one of those was one of the ancestors of Frigadoodles, and I stopped doing it, and then I stupidly took on a commissioned comic project. Like, I was the queen of bad decisions and taking on too much at the time. And I think it's part of the reason why I crashed so hard and I stopped making comics, because even though, I mean, I've said a couple times, it's probably been a couple of years since I've made comics, it's probably been longer than that, 4 or 5 years, since I've actually actively made comics for anything more than just a few strips or pages. And I don't want to continue that. I want to make comics. I mean, obviously, I did so much of it. I enjoy the hell out of making comics. But something I don't think I truly understood back when I was first doing it, and I don't think a lot of creators do, is even if you're doing a graphic novel that has a beginning and an end, you're looking at years of work. And I was recently watching my friend Will's interview with Jason Brubaker, and they were talking about how you have to become obsessed with that story for years. And that's so completely true. Not only obsessed with it, but you have to also understand that you're putting in, you are, once you start that comic, if you're wanting to complete it, you are essentially signing yourself up for years of constant work. And I don't think I really understood that. I didn't understand how long it was going to take to tell those stories. And I think that's one of the reasons why I was so flippant about adding additional to it. And it's something I learned the hard way because I crashed so hard, but I'm being smarter about it this time and mature about it this time and kind of taking it easy. I don't want to say that I'm not going to be able to do more than just the one comic at a time. I don't think that I'd ever be able to just do that. At least be in a situation of working on this other one comic, but also in the background building up the next one. Or working on this one graphic novel and doing something like Frigadoodles also, so that it's kind of keeping me loose. It's work, that I can put in. I have something that, with Frigadoodles, it's not so precious to me that I can test things and things like that. So, I mean, that's my plan going forward. Right now, Frigadoodles is, even though I'm kind of being real picky about stuff, it's more of a springboard for me. It's more of a, let's get back into this comic thing and not push myself too hard and overwhelm myself until I kind of get that groove back. So, yeah, and I'm doing much better this time. I mean, as I said, last time I got to the 11th day, and way before that, I was already sputtering out. I'm at day 28, chugging along, getting there. Yeah, so just if you're wanting to do comics, just understand it's a crap ton of work and it is a long-term job. You're not looking at, unless you're doing something that's like a one-off ash can comic type situation, you're looking at years of work, years of dedication, years of, really, you need to be obsessed with it or you're not going to make it. So, yeah. The other thing I kind of want to touch on just a little bit, it doesn't have to do with art, but it does have to do with, it does have to do with being an independent creator on the internet. And something I've been, again, for 15 years. I don't know if you've seen the news recently talking about what happened to Gavin Free and Meg Turney, both prominent YouTubers here on the platform. Back last month, they had a man break into their apartment with a gun intent on hurting them. Luckily, they were not harmed. They were able to get the police to come out, and everything was okay. But this is not an outlier. This is not unusual. I mean, there's stories all the time. You have, like, Julian Solomita, I can never say his name, and Jenna Marbles, who just a few months back had some lady with her kid show up at the doorstep. Philip Franco's had people come into his office. They've had people break into his house while his wife and child are there. Christina Grimmie got gunned down at a meet and greet by a fan. This is not that it's not an outlier. This is something that happens. I mean, there's so many other stories of online creators having fans, and I say this with quotes, just get all up into their personal lives, and it kind of scares me. I mean, I don't think, it's not like I'm sitting here saying that I'm so popular. I've got like 60 followers on here. But I will say for the last month, my followers have doubled. I think part of that is constantly updating. And in the past, I've known some popularity. I mean, back when I was really doing comics and producing quite a bit, I had thousands of followers, and it was really surreal. Like people showing up at conventions who knew you and were so excited to meet you, and you're just like, I'm just a crazy person that likes to draw stuff at home. It's like a weird situation. And back then, I was doing a comic called Snakes and Apples, which is a little controversial because it was based on biblical stories. And religion is a touchy subject for people. And so I got death threats, and I got some really horrible, terrifying messages. But it was far enough back that I wasn't really that scared that somebody was going to show up at my doorstep and shoot me or something. Even though I did take steps, like my domain didn't have my physical address as the address attached to it. I had a P.O. box. Yeah, I did take some steps, but it wasn't like something that really scared me. But it's now become such a common news thing for independent online creators, having these people just try to hurt them or show up in their personal lives and just invade everything. And it's a little terrifying. Being somebody who is getting back into being that online creator. And while I don't think it happens to all of us, it does happen often enough that it makes me think about it. And every time I hear a new story, I not only think about myself, but I think of friends, especially any friends who have any bit of following. I have a few that I consider friends who have a quite large following in different, either in YouTube or just with comics or whatever the case may be. And every time I hear these stories, I immediately think of them. I have friends that have families, that small children, and it's freaking terrifying. So I wonder if anybody else thinks of it. Any of y'all think about this? Is it something that would deter you from being an online creator, especially like in webcomics or YouTube or whatever? It's not going to deter me. It definitely will make me want to have a lot of precautions about protecting my identity to an extent, but yeah, it's kind of scary now. But anyway, I've rambled on long enough. I hope you enjoyed the drawing and the conversation, and I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on any of these subjects. And I'll see you tomorrow.